Hello everyone! Since every other Genshin Impact YouTuber is making their tier list, I thought, why don't I make a tier list as well? But this tier list will be a bit different. This is top 14 Genshin characters so far. I will be telling you guys the best build, weapon to use, their team comp, and the talent priority. I won't go in that much detail, so we will be covering the surface for the characters. Otherwise, this video will be much longer. Also, these characters are not in the order, and I will be ranking from support to sub DPS to main DPS. A disclaimer, before the video starts, none of the characters are a must-pull. So enjoy the game how you want to play. But if you ask me, what are the Genshin best characters, here they are. And if your character didn't make the list, they probably aren't on that level, or the characters on the list are just better. Let's start with the best support units this game has to offer. Number 14 is Zhongli. Zhongli is the best shielder in the game. His shield will be exceptional addition to your team, especially if you need it to output the max damage. Now the best build for Zhongli is as an off-field shredder and shielder. Therefore, having a weapon which gives HP percent as stat will benefit his support capability, and his best weapon for me is Black Tassel. An easy to get 3-star weapon, easy to refine, HP percent stat which helps with the shield strength. For the artifacts, all you need is for Ps. Tenacity of the Malilith with HP percent on Sands, Goblet, and Circlet. His priority sub-stats are HP percent and energy recharge. For priority on talents, just level up skill as far as possible for the max shield. His best team is the Mono Geo Edo, where Edo is the main DPS, and with Goro being the buffer, and Albedo or GU Traveler for more off field geo damage. But you can use him for any on-field DPS who needs a shielder like Arlecchino, Nuvilet, or charged playstyle DPS like Liney, Ganyu, and others.
I will have order.
Number 13 is Zelonin, recently released Natlin character. Zelonin is a support that shreds resistance of the enemies depending on the elements of the party. If there are more than 2 Pyro, Cryo, Electro, Hydro characters in the team, Zelonin's skill samplers matches the type of the teammates and reduces the enemy's resistance on those elements. However, to do this, you need to use normal attack to gain Knight's Soul points. Best weapon for Zelonin is her signature Weapon Peak Patrol song, but you can use Favonia's sword on her for the burst and off-field healing, or any sword which had defense percent as a stat. For her artifacts, you definitely need the new scroll of the Hero of Cinder's City, defense on Sands and Goblet. For Circlet, use healing bonus, or crit rate for the Favonia's Proc. Her priority sub-stats will be energy recharge and defense, and crit rate if you are using Favonius. Your stat goal for best performance should be 2000 defense at least, and 170% energy recharge. Her premium team is Nuvilet, Farina, Kazuha, and Zelonin, but she is really good in Navia double Pyro team. For her talents, priorities her skill, and burst is optional if you need healing. Number 12 is the Dendro Archon, Nahida. Nahida is an off-field Dendro support and can act as a decent on-field damage dealer with her skill. She marks enemies and periodically deals Dendro damage. Every elemental reaction triggers the damage, allowing her to consistently inflict Dendro to enemies. Any team that needs Dendro, Nahida is the best option in the game. Her best weapon is obviously the signature weapon 1000 Floating Dreams, giving element mastery, but the 1-star weapons Wandering Even Star and Scrificial Fragments also works for her. For sub DPS, Widsith is the best. Nahida's best artifacts depends on her role. For support, Deepwood Memories, and for sub DPS, it's Golden Troop, boosting the element skill damage. For artifact stats, you need Elemental Mastery on all Sands, Goblet, and boosting her damage according to her talents and passive. And for the sub-stats, prioritize EM, crit rate, crit damage, and energy recharge. Her best team includes Sinnoh, which will be the main DPS triggering Aggravate, but you can make easy Hyper Bloom team with her including Nahida, Xingqiu, Dendro Traveler, and Kuki Shinobu. For talents, prioritize her skill. Now for number 11, it's Kazuha. Kazuha is an amazing character that greatly increases the damage of swirlable elements while providing crowd control. With Viridescent Venerer, Kazuha can both buff the team and shred resistance of enemies. At C2, he can also provide Elemental Mastery Boost, which will further increase the overall damage of the team. Kazuha is the best character, according to me, in the game. He is so helpful both in damage and overworld. For his best weapon by order is his signature Freedom Sworn, Zipho's Moonlight, Talkabu's Shigyur, limited event weapon for free-to-play its Iron Sting. Best and only artifacts is for Peace, Viridescent Venerer, prioritizing EM on all sands, Goblet, and Circlet. For substat, try to get EM and energy recharge. Kazuha is best used and built as a swirl support for elemental reaction teams or mono-element teams. To do this, you need to increase elemental mastery of Kazuha to max and use Viridescent Venerer for resistance debuff. His best team is Child National, but he goes for any team. I mean any team even in mono-element team comps. For talent-wise, prioritize his skill and then burst. Number 10, Furina. Furina is an amazing sub-DPS and buffer that is very universal. She mostly deals damage with Elemental's skill, where she summons 3 elemental monsters similar to Fischl's Oz. The summoned monsters will periodically attack the enemies, inflicting them with Hydro. Her elemental burst gives damage bonus for the team. She's a flexible support and sub-DPS that will surely fit many teams. Her best weapon is her signature weapon giving HP, and the other will be fishing weapon Flevsunder Ferryman giving energy recharge and damage bonus on skill. Her best in slot artifacts is Golden Truth, having HP % on both Sands and Goblet for Circlet crit rate or crit damage depending on your weapon. For sub-stats, take crit stats, HP %, and energy recharge. To maximize Furina's damage, you need at least 40,000 HP. Furina's best party is with Nuvila due to his HP fluctuation, with Kazuha as support, and Baizhu for some defensive application, and healing for Furina's stacks. But any DPS that have HP movement works with Furina like Zhao, Riosley, or on field Kokomi. Number 9, Benny, the Adventurer. Bennett is an easy to obtain for star healer and attack buffer. He is very easy to build and does not require specific stat to be useful. His best weapon is Favonia's Sword, giving him additional energy recharge for the burst uptime, or the Aquila Favonia if you get it from the standard banner. For me, the best weapon for him is the Sapwood Blade, which gives energy recharge and have a decent base attack for a 4-star weapon. His best artifact is Noblesse Oblige, prioritizing energy recharge or HP % for Sands depending on your weapon, HP % for both Goblet and Circlet. Now, you can go for a healing bonus Circlet, but you won't need it as his base kit healing is enough. And make sure to grab his C1 if possible to ignore the HP amount condition. He can go in a lot other teams as a support, best paired with Xiangling due to her Pyro NATO, but I like the national team as it's a reaction-heavy based team with Xiangling, Xingqiu, Bennett, and Sucrose. Number 8 is Baizhu. Now Baizhu is hated a lot by the community, which I am not sure about. Let me know in the comments section. Why? But for me, he is one of the best support for the Abyss. His powerful healing and decent off-field Dendro makes him to the list, and also decent interruption resistance, but I would not count him as a shielder. His best weapon would be Thrilling Takes of Dragon Slayers, an easy of get 3-star weapon as Baiju scales on HP. I personally don't like to pull for supports' signature weapon, and his signature weapon is not his best in slot anyways. I would prefer crafting Prototype Ember over that. For the artifacts, best is the Deepwood Memories you can use to piece set for any energy recharge set and HP percent set like Tenacity and Emblem. As his energy recharge requirements is pretty high, which is almost 200%. For stats, HP percent on Sands, Goblet, and Circlet. For sub-stats, prioritize Element Mastery, Energy Recharge, and HP percent. He is best paired with Sano as Samo's burst uptime is pretty high and Baiju works well with him, so his best team is Sano, Baiju, Nahida, and Xingqiu, and Aggravate Hyper Bloom team comp which maximize Baiju's usage. Now Farina can easily replace Xingqiu here due to Baiju team-wide healing, but Baiju's off-field Dendro isn't that great for Sano, so you kinda need another off-field Dendro character like Nahida. Alright, we done with the support units. Let's start with the sub-DPS. Number 7 is Yellen. Yellen is an HP scaling off-field Hydro applicator. She is the best sub-DPS as her damage scaling is powerful and easy to build. Her best weapon is her signature, Aqua Simulacra. I do not recommend to pull on Weapon Banner, but this weapon is one of best for any bow-wielding character. Others are Favonius Warbow and the Recurve Bow, given energy recharge for her bust and HP percent as stat for the damage increase respectively. For the artifacts, it's Emblem of the Severed Fate, prioritizing HP on Sands, Hydro damage bonus on Goblet, and crit rate, or crit damage on Circlet, depending on your weapon. The substats priority will be crit damage, crit rate, HP percent, and energy recharge. Now, Yellen is a really flexible character going in a lot of team comps, and she can replace or work with Xingqiu in any Hydro-related teams. But her best team would be Wriothesley Freeze team, with Yellen and Wriothesley as damage dealers, Kazuha for the grouping and support, and Diona for healing. Diana can easily be replaced by Farina to really increase the damage if you have her. Number 6 is Miko. Miko is a strong Electro sub DPS and can function both as a main DPS or a support character. Her elemental skill creates on-field totems that does consistent Electro damage. Even at C0, she's strong and just gets stronger with more constellations. Her best weapon is her signature weapon, Kagura's Verity, which gives crit damage as stat and buffs element skill damage. Other weapon you can use is the Battle Pass weapon Sacrificial Jade, which is similar to her signature weapon. If not, Widsith is not a bad weapon for her. If you get Skyward Atlas from Standard Banner, you can use it as well. Now her best artifact is Golden Troop, as her damage comes from elemental skill. Stats priority is EM, or attack percent on Sands, elective damage bonus on Goblet, and crit rate or damage depending on your weapon. Substat priority is crit stats, attack percent, EM, or energy recharge. Her best team focuses on aggravate damage with a Dendro character. So with Tainari, Miko, Nahida, and Baiju. Here Miko is enough for the Electro application, as her skill has 100% uptime. You can use Farina instead of Nahida, as Baiju will cover up the healing for Farina's stacks and make it an Aggravate Hyper Bloom team. Other Dendra main DPS also works well with Miko here, like Alhaitham. For talents, focus on her skill, as that's where you get the most damage out from. Number 5 is Xingqiu. Xingqiu is a character from Liyuhe and an excellent off-field Hydro sub-DPS. At Constellation 6, Xingqiu can inflict the most Hydro to enemies at single target. Xingqiu is the best off-field Hydro applicator in the game, similar to Yellen, but easily accessible from Lantern Light and the shop. His best weapon is Sacrificial Sword, as he has high energy requirements, and with that double element skill skill, you get more particle, which helps in burst uptime. Other weapon like Favonia's sword and Sapwood blade is great for him as well. His best artifacts is Emblem of the Severed Fate as he focuses on his burst. For stats priority, attack percent on Sands, hydro damage bonus on Goblet, and crit rate, or damage depending on your build. For sub stats, prioritize attack percent, energy recharge, and crit stats. For the best team, he is really good for the national team as his Hydro app helps with the reactions, but his best team is double Hydro Hudao team, but he is very flexible character, really useful in Hyper Bloom, Vaporize, and Freeze team comps. For talents, focus on burst, and skill as that's where you get the most damage. Number 4 is Xiangling, the queen of Genshin Impact. What was Hoyo thinking with giving this overpowered character for free? Some people don't like Xiangling, but her off-field pyro isn't matched in the game. She is best paired with Bennett for buffing her pyro NATO damage. At C4, her pyro NATO uptime is increased, which means it has 15-second duration with 20-second cooldown. But she is also known as an energy-hungry character up to 200% energy recharge easily. Because if your burst isn't up within that cooldown, your DPS does go down by a lot. Her best weapon is the catch, which you get for free by fishing in Inazuma. At refinements, this weapon can easily compete with 5-star weapons. Fishing isn't fun as it's time-consuming for the refinements, but this weapon can be used on other Polarm characters, as it gives energy recharge and burst damage bonus. Her best artifacts is Emblem of the Severed Fate as she focuses on her burst. For the stats priority, attack percent on Sands, pyro damage bonus on the Goblet, and crit rate, or damage depending on the weapon. For sub stats priority, crit stats, energy recharge, and elemental mastery. She can use every polearm in the game. Favonius is great on her. Even 5 stars like Staff of Homa and Staff of Scarlet Sands. Her best team is Child National, but any team that require off-field pyro, Xiangling is there. For the talent priority, Burst should be crowned if you're planning to use her to maximize damage. Now for the top 3 main DPS characters that can dominate this game solo. Number 3 is Neuvillette. Neuvillette is a character that focuses on using charged attacks to deal high damage to enemies. Neuvillette has amazing personal damage that is further increased by triggering Hydro reactions. Neuvillette is the best DPS in this game. He is so broken he can solo the Abyss when invested right. His best weapon is his signature weapon, Tome of the Eternal Flow, giving crit damage, but the Battle Pass weapon, Sacrificial Jade, which is similar to the signature at refinements, and for free-to-play players, Prototype Amber is the best as it gives HP percent stats, boosting his damage. His best artifacts is Mara Chessie Hunter, as it gives bonus crit rate and charged attack damage bonus. For stats priority, HP percent on Sands, Hydro damage bonus on Goblet, and crit damage on Circlet, as you get crit rate from the For Peace set bonus. For sub stats, crit stats, HP percent, or ER, his ER is also important as if he bursts consistently, his overall damage goes up. His best team is with Farina, Kazuha, and Baiju. You can replace Baiju for Zelonin if you have her, but for C0 Neuvillette, Baiju gives some interruption resistance with his burst. For talent priority, normals are to be crowned, then skill, and ultimate. The only weakness for Neuvillette is the hydro-immune enemies. As being a catalyst user, it's impossible to do other damage than respective elemental damage unless you put Eye of Perception on him, which will be interesting, but waste of your resources.
To judge the future.
Number 2 is Arlecchino. Arlecchino is a pyro DPS that uses Bond of Life. She focuses on dealing damage through normal attacks that will drain Bond of Life and A combo of elemental skill and charged attack to gain Bond of Life, she uses Elemental Burst to deal powerful damage and heal her own HP. She is the best Pyro DPS so far, and her damage number says it all. For her weapon, best is the signature weapon, Crimson Moon's Semblance, which gives crit rate, and also a niche weapon for her, as buffing damage is based on Bond of Life. Then she can work with other 5-star polar arms like Staff of Homa and Staff of the Scarlet Sands. But the Battle Pass weapon deathmatch is pretty good on her as well. For a free-to-play option, White Tassel, a 3-star weapon, easy of refined weapon, is also great for her, but very low base attack, which is easily solved with the Pyro Resonance in the team. For the artifacts, it's clear, Fragment of the Harmonic Whimsy. You can put the Gladiator on her, but Whimsy gets the most out of her kit. For the stats priority, attack percent for the Sands, Pyro damage bonus for the Goblet, and crit rate or damage circlet depending on the weapon. For sub-stats priority, crit stats, attack percent, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. You need to have enough energy recharge, around 180% on her, because the only way to heal her is the burst. Her best team includes Yellen, Bennett, and Zhongli. You can always switch Yellen with Xingqiu or C6 Candace, which works pretty good with her. Replace Zhongli with Thoma or Layla as you need a shielder. Bennett can be switched with Kazuha. You can use Chevaroos with her, but then you are forced to use Overload Team Comp. Number 1 is Alhaitham. Alhaitham is an easy-to-use Dendro character that needs to stay on field to deal damage. He has an amazing scaling with Elemental Mastery, and is able to produce massive single target and OE damage through his mirrors and elemental burst. Alhaitham is the top damage dealer in the game, but given his complex playstyle, the other two are more famous in the Abyss and the Overworld. His best weapon is the signature weapon, Light of Foliar Incision, or Lo-Fi, what I call it, but the Battle Pass weapon, Volfang, is great for him, and for the free-to-play option, Refined Harbinger of Dawn works great on him. As per artifacts, he can use Gilded Dreams or Deepwood, but preferred is the Gilded Dreams. For stats priority, Elemental Mastery on Sands, Dendro damage bonus, or Elemental Mastery on Goblet, crit rate, or damage for circlet depending on the weapon you are using. For sub-stats priority, crit stats, elemental mastery, and energy recharge. You need to have enough energy recharge on him, as the burst up time will be crucial for the damage output, so around 190% should be fine. To maximize his damage, 1000 elemental mastery is also recommended, but if not possible, 500 is the minimum requirement. Best team comps that I like is the Hyper Bloom spread, including Nahida Xingqiu and Kuki Shinobu. You can use Farina instead of Xingqiu as well. Dori can also replace Kuki here if you have her build. For talent priority, he needs all 3 for the damage output, but I will recommend to crown his elemental skill and level up the normal and burst as well. Now for some honorable mentions. Kuki and Raiden would have definitely made the list, but they are mostly used for Hyper Bloom, and they are next if it isn't the top 14. Also, Navia, I personally enjoy playing her, and she isn't a defense scaling character, plus her skill hits like a truck. A lot of other character, so if you want me to rank every Genshin character so far, please leave a like and a comment, or if you want me to make a detailed guide for a character, let me know as well. So that was Genshin characters that are in my top 14. Thank you for watching the video.